Long days and pleasant nights, fellow travelers along the path of the beam. I am known on this level of the tower as Jaime and Fuego, and if it please you, join me for some very special palaver here on Hail to Stephen King, the guy whose books you see all seated beside me here, my favorite author. So if you are new to the program, bienvenidos and welcome to the horror show. This program I do twice a week, usually every terrifying Tuesday and scarific Saturday. However, sometimes when we have different film obligations, live streams and things to do, we shift those days around just a little bit, but it's always twice a week and usually Tuesday, Wednesday, or, Saturday or Sunday, depending. It all just, seems to be how the week is going. But this is something that I actually had a lot of people tweeting at me about, especially as announcement after announcement was made. Talked a little bit about it on the News with Booze here and there, which is a program we usually do every Sunday and Tuesday as well, recapping the biggest horror stories of the previous week. But I was trying not to hit every single casting announcement, especially after the big three, as they turned out to be, were initially mentioned, and then it seems like the names the rest of the way weren't as big. And so this video is all about the fact that the It Chapter 2 casting for the Losers Club as adults 27 years later is officially complete. That's right, the last to be cast was just this past weekend when news broke about who would be playing Mike Hanlon. He was the only piece of the puzzle that was left. And so they went with some interesting directions. When we were all doing our dream casting, I think most of us predominantly went with just bigger, more well-named stars. And as I said, for the first three that we heard about, that was the route that they took. The rest of the way, I'm kind of surprised with what they've done, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be bad or anything like that, but the other 4 of the 7 are not proven names. They are totally not. Now, I'd say 1 or 2 of them has a little bit more extensive of, I guess kind of an IMDb, because I extensively researched all of these names that I was unfamiliar with for this video. So I guess we will start with the first 3, the big names that they went with, and the first announced was Jessica Chastain playing Beverly Marsh. The interesting thing about this was obviously Sophia Lillis, who I thought was the best part of this reimagining, reinterpretation, because it wasn't an adaptation. That's the one thing that I stressed, because I didn't absolutely over the moon adore this chapter 1 of it. I did. I really enjoyed it though, and I didn't quite love it as much as everybody else because I'm such a purist about the source material, and I have such a soft spot for the original film, or the TV movie, little mini-series, I guess you would say, or the TV event, or whatever it was, from 1990. So I saw that as a kid, and it endeared itself very much to me. I'm not as critical of the stuff of the adults as much, with the exception of the spider at the end. I actually don't think the acting is that bad. I'm in the minority, apparently, within this, and shout out to, one of the few I know, Mr. Kevin Ketchy, my homie from YouTube here, who has had my back on this a few different times. But, so, Chastain was the girl who played young Bevvy's choice, her top choice, which kind of made sense, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if Andy and his sister were whispering in her ear, because they have had great rapport with Ms. Chastain, who is an Oscar-nominated actress from The Help. She's done tons of other great stuff from, she was great in Take Shelter with Michael Shannon, Tree of Life, Terrence Malick, interesting, Zero Dark 30. I mean, she's done a ton of shizzle, and she's very well esteemed. She is considered an A-list actress at this point. Molly's Game had lots of great reviews coming out just this past year, and so I'm not surprised that this ended up going down. I still really would have liked Bryce Dallas Howard in this, but that's just me. That was my dream casting. So, but this is one that I am totally okay with. I think she's going to do a hell of a job. She really impressed me in Mama. She totally did. I hadn't seen, I remembered her from Take Shelter and from Tree of Life because I really enjoyed both those movies quite a bit. Michael Shannon along with Sam Rockwell are my 2 favorite working actors today. So I definitely remembered her from Take Shelter and the descent into, paranoia and stuff that Shannon has in that movie, and, you know, just a splintering relationship with his wife and family and stuff. So she is A-list, she's awesome, insanely talented, and I'm totally okay with this casting and with not getting the person that I wanted for this. But the interesting thing is who we ended up going with next, because James McAvoy, my boy, who I have honestly loved since he was a Trees in Children of Dune for sci-fi. He impressed the hell out of me in that. And, you know, as he went on to do other stuff like Wanted and Atonement and, you know, becoming the young Charles Xavier and, you know, terrific in Split. And he's even doing some, I think he's doing some voice work in, yeah, the upcoming reimagining of an animated Watership Down, which if y'all have never seen Watership Down, Dizam, yo, it's incredible. Glass is no doubt going to be tremendous. The sequel to both Unbreakable and Split, which, you know, Shyamalan, the Sham Hammer, has come in next year. So 2019 is definitely going to be a big year for McAvoy because, you know, the new It comes out September 6th, 2019. But he's playing the grown-up Bill. He was my dream casting in the music video, the YouTube video that I made for this last September after the film had came out, and I shared the Chrome Dome photo as you're seeing right now and stuff because that is the way that he's described in the original source material. It makes me wonder if they're really going to go with that more accurate look or not, or, you know, what the approach is going to be. I'm really hoping it's not, despite the fact that I rock the Seagal ponytail from time to time when I have to pull his hair back because I don't man bun that shizzle, no way, no how. I'm really curious what visual look they go with. I actually thought the grown-up Bevy did a pretty damn good job in the miniseries. I did think the young Bevy was an improvement. I still go by Jonathan Brandis as a much better Bill compared to the young Jaden Lieberher who played him. He didn't do that bad of a job, you know, but Brandis, I thought, brought just so much more as a leader to that original miniseries. But I'm stoked about this McAvoy casting. I definitely think compared to the miniseries, this will be an improvement, despite the fact that I did like the performance of the grown-up Bill in the original adaptation, I should say. Richie Tozier being the next one that we have to mention here, because this is our third A-lister. They went with Bill Hader, who ironically, they're like 2 for 3 so far with the A-list talent that the stars of the original were basically clamoring for, wanting to see in Chapter 2. And also another thing to make note of, it's not confirmed, but it has been widely reported that there's going to be flashbacks to, you know, the younger Losers Club. It's going to take more so the approach that the original book did, because the original book jumps back and forth, you know, very seamlessly between moments with the adults and flashing back to moments when they were children. So that's allegedly what they're doing. So we're gonna see some young Beep Beep Richie. We're gonna see some Finn Wolfhard in there, who he was the only thing that, while I enjoyed his portrayal of the character, in some ways, with all of the other just unknowns in the, you know, in last year's It, he kind of stuck out like a sore thumb for me a little bit, although I did enjoy his performance quite a bit. The fact that he was already such a star from Stranger Things, and, you know, that's, you know, I saw him as Mike, you know, but in any event, I like this casting. My go-to was actually Paul Dano here, which I didn't get as much love for as I was hoping, because that guy can do very brooding drama, but it can also be funny. Maybe he's become a little too brooding later in his career, you know, especially with stuff like, oh man, There Will Be Blood and, you know, various others. But yeah, I don't know. I'm cool with this casting. I'm actually very cool with it. It was Finn Wolfhard's, you know, dream casting, and he got it, you know. Most people know him from SNL, and he did tons of voice work for many years in South Park, and, you know, he's been in everything from, you know, Lonely Island stuff to Voices in Sausage Party. I mean, the guy has quite the comedic rapport, but he proved to me with the Skeleton Twins, I believe it was, with Kristen Wiig, yeah, that's the one that I saw a number of years ago. He can crank it in a different direction. And so even though Richie does try to be the comedic relief even as an adult in the book, you know, he does show fear, and he does show, I guess, gravitas and like genuine just emotion, and he can't hide behind that silly almost stoicism, cynicism, whatever, throughout the entirety of the story. And he really mans up in the third act when, you know, they have to go and confront, you know, for the second time, you know, Bob Gray, Pennywise, whatever you want to classify this entity as, that Skarsgård did a pretty damn good job of making it his own, in my opinion. I still prefer Tim Curry, but that's just me. So that's the big three, guys. Those are definitely the ones that you can expect to see high, along with probably Skarsgård's name, on the poster for It Chapter 2 once we finally get something. It's about to start filming. I believe it's at the end of this month or at the beginning of next month, up in the Toronto area, or somewhere in Canada. I'm being forgetful now. But long story short, so that is the three big top names that we have associated with this, and they were the first three announced. The rest of the way is where I'm a little more clueless, and especially as I look side by side, because I'm going to show you, you know, an image of, you know, the young as portrayed in last year's film, and then an image of this new adult version that we're going to see. I feel like in a lot of ways, the casting the rest of the way, maybe they're putting, I mean, you know they would have had the money to go with more big names. They totally could have. The young Ben Hanscom, which was played by Jeremy Ray Taylor, he wanted Chris Pratt, you know? I actually thought that was amazing casting, especially, you know, going from the more chubbed out to, you know, like leading man status like he pretty much did in real life. I don't know if Pratt was, you know, on the huskier side as a child or whatever, but yeah, it was a character that I definitely identified a lot with, for, you know, just crushing over the girl and not being able to get her and everything. That was my childhood in so many ways. But they ended up going with a guy who, he is a New Zealand, you know, a Kiwi by way of Australia, Aussie actor by the name of Jay Ryan. And so, yeah, he, with the exception of tons and tons of Australian TV work and, you know, I think a few films and stuff, his predominant North American stuff that he's known for is he was on the CW show of Beauty and the Beast, which ran for a few seasons, and I never saw because that's not necessarily my jam. I haven't really watched CW since, boy, the WB rebranded themselves as a network, and, you know, I really enjoyed Buffy, and, you know, I still watch Supernatural though, so I guess, yeah, that's really the only CW that I still stick by. But, so yeah, he was the Beast, a former soldier on that, kind of in hiding. And then there's a show on Lifetime called Mary Kills People, where an ER doctor by night teams up with an ex-plastic surgeon, who I'm assuming he's playing, and they go out helping terminally ill people euthanize themselves. Yeah, it's a Lifetime show. Sounds kind of like a Lifetime show. Man, my contact is bugging me. But, so yeah, anyway, this is, I mean, looking at the image of both, I guess you can kind of see the resemblance kind of in the face, especially in what, you know, a grown-up Ben could become. Next up, we have Mike Hanlon, who was, as I said at the beginning of this video, the most recently announced casting, the last one that they got to, and it went to an actor by the name of Isaiah Mustafa, who he's most known for being on Shadowhunters, which is that they got 3 seasons of this Mortal Instruments TV series. That I don't watch Mortal Instruments. I know I think they made a few movies and then they went to this series, and I know it's YA stuff, kind of the sci-fi variety. I haven't checked any of it out. I don't think he was in any of the films. It wasn't listed on his IMDb, but he was in that, so that's what he's known for a little bit. But what I've seen him in is those Old Spice commercials. He's very funny in them. He's got interesting, you know, snark and charisma and whatnot, but once again, he looks a lot like Chosen Jacobs, you know. Despite not being a household name, I can see the resemblance between, you know, the two kids, and so it kind of makes sense to me that they would continue, you know, without, if they're not going to go with an A-lister, they go with somebody who presumably has chops, because I have a lot of faith in the casting that the Muschietti siblings are going with this, and they're going for resemblance the rest of the way. So acting chops, hopefully, presumably, and a resemblance factor, you know, and that trend continues with Eddie Kaspbrak, you know, and we've got this guy named James Ransone, and so he's probably, of the 4 lesser-known names, the one that people will recognize the most, especially in the genre of horror, because he was the detective in the 2008 remake of Prom Night. I don't think he was really, it's been so long since I've watched that, I can't remember if he gets killed or if he's just in a scene or two or what, but He was also, this is where I saw him and what I kind of was like, is that the guy from Generation Kill along with Skarsgård? Ironically, Bill Skarsgård's older brother from the guy who was on True Blood. Yeah, they were two of those Iraq, you know, guys when Generation Kill on HBO was pretty damn good. And I don't always get into war stuff, but yeah, that show was good. And he actually showed some chops in that. I haven't seen either of the Sinister movies, and that's where everyone's telling me, oh, well, he's most known for the Sinister movies. He was kind of a lesser character. He was the sheriff's deputy in the first Sinister movie, the one with Ethan Hawke, and then he became front and center in the second Sinister movie, which I know Derrickson did not direct, and a lot of people talk mad smack about. Everybody I know who's a fan of the Sinister films is like, oh, the first one's really good, and the second one's awful. So I don't know what that says about maybe the type of performance he brought to play, but yeah, I mean, this guy, he seemed to have just the most clout, I guess, and plus, as you saw, he looks a lot like Jack Dylan Grazer, who played the young Eddie. Now, I must say, with these last couple castings, I really loved Ben grown up as Ritter, John Ritter. Rest peacefully, sir. You know, some people didn't like the way he was written as being so much more of a womanizer and stuff, and I guess if you compare that to the source material, I had a bit of an issue with that, but I actually really liked his chemistry with the grown-up actress who played Bev, and you know, as you saw the blossoming, there's no, obviously you didn't see a few things that, you know, just the chemistry with her and Bill, besides the kiss at the Chinese restaurant and whatnot, but yeah, I don't know, Mike Hanlon in the original miniseries, I recognized the face of the guy who played him, and I didn't write down the name of the actor like a doof here, but I don't know. In some ways, he feels a little too old to have been playing, you know, Mike 27 years later. But then again, you know, this Isaiah Mustafa perhaps feels just a little too young for me. But I do feel like the look of all of these actors is a younger look, at least a little bit, than the look that they went for with, you know, the actors in the 1990 version. These actors look younger to me. Maybe that's just because I'm older now. I'm in my 30s now. I don't know, but long story short, you once again see the resemblance between the young and this new James Ransoni, who is going to be, you know, the grown-up Jack Dylan Grazer, man. So now we get to our last one, and our last one is the one who obviously is, anyone who's familiar with the source material knows that Stanley gets the least amount of face time, I guess, and screen time in you know, both the miniseries and in the book, at least as an adult. And this new guy who's picking it up for Wyatt Olaf is none other than Andy Beam. Andy Beam has the least amount of experience in the acting world, according to his IMDb. He was a smaller player in Allegiant. He was a supporting character in this Starz show called Power, which is about like a club owner who is also a drug kingpin. Yeah, I've never heard of that type of story before. But yeah, he was another supporting person in that. I'm not sure what he did. I've never seen the show. And then after that, you know, Here and Now, which is a show about a multi-family of, you know, adopted children and a biological child, and then one of them starts seeing things that aren't there. The cast looked actually pretty okay. I'm trying to remember the name of the lead because I didn't write it down, but he's also supporting character in this. From some of the photos I saw, it looked like he was working in like a coffee shop or something. So I don't know, man. This is probably the casting where I'm the most cautious, but once again, you see the resemblance. You see the resemblance between these two. So I don't know. I'm just gonna have to go with my faith in Andy and, you know, his sister, and just hoping that, you know, them with their casting director found the right people for it. They did such a great job casting the kids, but then again, I do think that it takes a different type of director to get kids to all experience camaraderie and be genuine and bring it, compared to an ensemble of adults. It takes a different type of touch to get great performances out of that. And for that reason, I'm gonna just express my apprehension. I'm not gonna use a word like worry here, but I'm much more apprehensive about this second It movie than I am, and especially about the potential success that it's gonna have, both on the critical and on the commercial side of things. I'm very curious how it's all gonna pan out. Nothing is ever gonna take the original book away from me. Nothing can do that, or and no one can pry out of my dead hands that Cemetery Dance Anniversary Edition. Nobody. But I gotta say, I'm really wondering how this is all going to pan out. Most notably because of the fact that I've read Cary Fukunaga's script, and the finished product, which got a polish from Mr. Gary Dauberman, it didn't really change very much. And Gary is the one who is writing this entirely by himself. We're not sure if no one else is listed on IMDb, no one else has been announced to be assisting or, you know, helping with rewrites or anything like that. So this is all him. His stuff is kind of hit and miss. He did the first Annabelle, woof, you know, Buzz your girlfriend, woof. But then, when he did the prequel to that, which was Annabelle Creation, I actually really enjoyed that movie. I thought it was going to be terrible. It was damn good. He's also penned the script for The Nun, which he worked on the story with James Wan. So the fact that him and Wan devised the story together, and then he's scripting it, that might be just kind of a bait and switch a little bit. You never know. And, you know, this is still him playing in the universe of James Wan, the Conjuring universe that he created. He's also working with Atomic Monster, which is James Wan's production company that he started, that's working on everything from all the newer Conjuring movies to that reboot of Mortal Kombat to the Swamp Thing series, which is going to be coming to the DC Universe streaming service in 2019. He's going to be scripting some stuff there. So this guy has his hands in a ton of different projects, which hopefully means he is honing his craft and that he's getting better at it, he's getting more adept at it, and I guess, you know, since he did that polish on Fukunaga's script, you would hope that he can bring it with, you know, with solid dialogue and concepts, and I'm hoping some surprises to the proceedings, because especially with as much of a reimagining as, you know, last year's smash success that was the reimagining of it, I'm honestly hoping that they kind of, besides the decade change obviously to taking it from the 80s to the modern times, I'm hoping that they just they throw us a few curveballs. You know, some stuff happens with Stanley in the original novel and in the miniseries, and there's a part of me that hopes they kind of switch it up and pull the wool over our eyes a little bit, maybe, and, you know, make us think things are going one way, and then perhaps I'm trying to dance around spoilers here because, God, I would hope if you're watching this, you have at least familiarized yourself with the miniseries, the book, something. But for that case, you know, I would like to see some of the stuff that goes down with Stanley, you know, just actually surprise us a little bit. I want, since it's a reimagining, as I've used that word so many damn times now at this point in this video, I want to be, as a fan of the source material and seeing how things have been tinkered with already, I want to see some things switched up. The one glaring omission, which I honestly don't think we are going to get an announcement about a Henry Bowers character. For the sheer fact that in the miniseries, you were led to believe that he survived, and he did, and he plays a very integral part in the second half of the story with them as adults, which, you know, bounces back and forth. But yes, he's a very crucial part in the source material, and you're led to believe at the end of this movie that he's dead. I don't think he's dead, and I personally predict that they are not going to make any announcement about some prolific adult playing the grown-up Bowers, you know, escaping from the institution and stuff like that, for the sheer fact that I think they're trying to keep it a secret that he's even going to be in the movie. You heard it here from me first. So, I don't know. That's the rundown of all the casting. We talked about all the returning kids, presumably, although it's not confirmed. But, yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic because I think Mucchetti's a very talented director. I'm really bummed out that we're not going to get to see that pilot that he shot with actually the kid who played Georgie, you know, SS Georgie and whatnot, who is also rumored to be returning for this, but there's no guarantees. We do, as adults, a little more so in the miniseries than even in the book, really. Yeah, it was prominent in the miniseries, you know, the scenes with grown-up Bill, and, you know, those were actually not really in the book. Boy, I'm trying to remember, but I don't think they were at least to the extent of where they went with it, with You Let Me Die, Bill, and so on and so forth. But September 6th, 2019, unless they shift that release date around, which who knows, they could, but the previous one came out in September, so I think they're trying to go for that sweet spot before Halloween, after the summer blockbuster season has already hit. There won't be as much competition. A lot of people think, besides the clown fear and nostalgia factor that it was like that porch was just right. They had it just in the right spot at the right time. It was the right film at the right time, and that's why it was so successful. I'm hoping that Stanley, as I mentioned, and even Mike get some more meat to chew on, because I felt like both of those characters were given a significant disservice in last year's film. And you know, there's some deleted scenes with Stan especially that gave his character so much more depth, especially with the speech that he gives at the bar mitzvah, which was, you know, like omitted and stuff. And so I don't know, I hope that they give some more meat to both those characters, but Mike especially, you know, most notably because they took so much of him studying the dairy history and threw it over to Ben for whatever reason, which I did not like. So, you know, once again, I'm not here to review it. Again, you can see our massive amount of it coverage, from my dream casting episode to even a return to dairy where I talked about, you know, going back to dairy for Insomnia and for 11/22/63. Boy, we did spoilers reviews, we did non-spoilers reviews, we talked about the comic book, we reviewed the miniseries, we reviewed, the original novel and everything, the fan comic. And I mean, we basically hit everything. We milked that, you know, about as much as our buddies at all the Killer Flicks homies in their Halloween coverage right now. So I'm not going to get started on Halloween. You can see my thoughts about that here on the channel as well, but we were here to talk about it, so I extend a grande gracias for all who have tuned in just to hear my thoughts about the completed casting of the Losers Club for 2019's It Chapter 2. I've been Jaime and Fuego, and you can find me on all social media sectors: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, just like you are seeing it spelled below. If you haven't subscribed here to The Horror Show, please do, and ring that bell that is here on the page, so that anytime we put up new content, which is 2, sometimes 3 times a day, you get that notification, so you can check out the new Hail to Stephen King, so you can check out our upcoming reviews of stuff like The Meg, so that you are just in the loop for all things horror. We don't claim to be the best horror YouTube channel, because we have so many other channels we love and respect, but we do like to consider ourselves the most prolific with all the content that we put out for all of you. So like and share this video with the hashtag Hail to Stephen King if you share it on any of your social media. And so yeah, I guess until the Wheel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, sin amigos, and constant viewers and readers. I hope we get to see each other sooner rather than later once again. And until that time commences, remember, stay scared. And read Stephen King, because if you haven't read it yet, what are you waiting for? At least get the audiobook.